So welcome and thanks for joining today's Changing Lawyer Series webinar. This is actually one of two different webinar series owned by the Latera Microsystems Evangelist team, headed up by today's speaker, Simon Dandy. The Changing Lawyer Series focuses on pressing issues and technical challenges facing today's lawyers and law firms. We gather these insights through hundreds of conversations with our customers, and what makes these sessions so valuable is that the content is generated from real-world experiences and conversations, not just our theories and opinions. I'm very excited to introduce today's speaker, Simon Dandy, the Vice President of Product Evangelism at Latera Microsystems. Simon is a legal industry veteran and brings a wealth of experience from his varied background in the legal sector. Just a bit of housekeeping before we begin. The webinar will run 30 minutes with time baked in at the end to answer questions. If you have questions for Simon, please enter them into your question window and we'll answer them as many as we can in the time allotted for Q&A. With that, I'll let Simon tell you more about himself in today's session.
Thanks, Steve. Hello, everyone. I'm not sure I like the term industry veteran as it kind of dates me, but I've been around a while and I do have the scars to prove it because I spent much of my career working for a large international law firm where I focused on providing lawyers with the tools they need to get their job done. I actually see there's a handful of people from my old firm on the webinar, so just a quick shout out to you guys. I do miss you. That'll sound great in the recording. And I've been with Latera 3 years. I was previously VP of Research and Development, and now I have the fancy title of VP of Product Evangelism. As Steve said, this is a 30-minute webinar. We want to keep it short and punchy so that you're not tempted to drift into your email or buying things on Amazon. And to help with that, I've made this a completely bullet-free zone. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so this webinar is all about what's changing in these three areas: the lawyers and how the business of law is changing, the technology, how it's changing, and how you can use this to address those business challenges to make your lawyers more efficient, reduce risk, and ultimately make them happier and less frustrated. Then last but not least, how you can identify vendors to partner with for mutual success. So we're going to start with the lawyers. So Latera Microsystems has produced a thought leadership publication called The Changing Lawyer, and that's what this series of webinars is based on. It's available in print that we hand out at events, but there's also an interactive version available from our website. So please do make use of this if you feel it could help the conversations on this topic in your firm. So there's a short accompanying video which will play now, as it really sets the scene for this webinar and provides the reasons for legal technologists like you to adapt and to be an active participant in this change. So, hope you enjoyed that. As you can see, there's a lot of change going on, and we as the trusted advisors, both inside firms and as business partners outside the firm, we need to react. And this is really a call to action for you and your colleagues. Some firms are changing and transforming their business in order to set themselves up to compete and survive. Hopefully you are working at one of those firms, But if you're not, then you may need to drive that change yourself and really engage your lawyers and the firm leadership to move them in this direction. There is, unfortunately, a lot of complacency out there. We see it regularly, particularly with firms that are actually successful now with their current or old business model. But the world is changing around them and they will ultimately be left behind. So you need to be adding value, not just maintaining and upgrading systems. And if you can do that and become that invaluable, trusted advisor, that will play a critical part in evolving your firm for the future. So my original title of this webinar was going to be, what have you done for your lawyers lately? And the reason for that is that we see and talk to a lot of firms where the lawyers feel like they haven't received any wow technology solutions that make a difference in their lives. They haven't seen them for a long time. So wouldn't it be great if you could make lawyers feel more efficient so that the firm benefits with reputation, quality, productivity, and increase in realization rates? But also, so the lawyers can go home at a reasonable hour, be with their family, and ultimately be happy. Okay, maybe I'm shooting for the stars on that last one. So let's move on to the technology and the types of technology that can help in this cause. Okay, if you know Latera Microsystems and our area of expertise, you'll know we're hyper-focused on the lawyer and on their workflow. And you won't be surprised to hear that I'm going to tell you that the workflow that really makes a difference in lawyer efficiency is this document drafting lifecycle. Law firms are really document factories, and therefore the widget that they produce is the legal document. So whatever we can do to optimize that is going to have a big impact. And there are three distinct phases of the document drafting lifecycle, which takes us from first draft to final delivery. And we break our products up into these three groupings. So create gives you the cleanest and fastest possible start. Check proofreads using AI to identify content and formatting issues. And then we fix the issues with a single click. And collaborate, you compare versions and share with internal and external parties securely and with no hidden information in those files. But to the lawyers, a lot of IT upgrades and improvements are just seen as plumbing. The lawyers don't necessarily see or feel the benefit, and if they don't see the technology making their lives easier, they start to wonder what the IT team is doing for them. The clients have been asking questions about security technology for over a decade now, and much of this is just table stakes or the cost of doing business for a law firm. And you absolutely need to demonstrate that you're taking care of the client's most sensitive documents. But clients are also now asking about efficiency and what you're doing to enable lawyers to work and collaborate on documents more efficiently, and at the same time increasing the quality and reducing the risks. The problem with these back-end plumbing projects such as Citrix, CRM, ERP, Windows, Office, while they're all really important, they're all consuming and distract from the lawyer efficiency focus that's so important. So these projects need to be combined and complemented with projects that make a positive difference in their daily work for your lawyers. So you may be in the middle of one of these projects now, but you shouldn't be paralyzed by that project. We see this a lot, and I've been there myself, where it feels like nothing else can happen, sometimes for years while this is in motion. There are lots of quick win value-adding solutions that you can make a difference with and address inefficiencies and lawyer frustration, even while you're waiting for the next big thing to come down the pike. So how can you do this, and what type of solutions can help? Here are a couple of data points to help us when looking for new technology. Every additional click costs the firm about $6 US or £4.50. And the average duration of focusing on any one screen is about 40 seconds, which is actually down from 1 minute and 14 seconds in 2012. So you can see the direction we're moving. The right technology can address this by limiting the number of clicks and screen hops that are required to perform simple drafting tasks. We really want to identify solutions that are relevant and in context to the workflow. In order to do this, you need to make sure that you understand that lawyer workflow and also the practice group and local differences. Just go out and talk to lawyers, ask them the questions about the things that they do, particularly the workflows that they do 10 or more times a day. I think you'll be surprised with what you find out and how easy it actually is to find solutions that address those things. Then you can present those solutions to them and put them in context of their workflow so that A, they realize you're listening. Don't ever underestimate this. And B, it also makes sense to them because they recognize the flow, because they're already doing this repetitive task so many times a day. And solutions should never require a lot of training. It's got to be so intuitive that anyone can pick it up within minutes. And if all of this happens, it'll enable you not only to make them more productive, but also reduce the inherent risk in the workflow, because you know you're making it easy for them to do the right thing. Here are some examples of Latera Microsystems solutions that do this. The document lifecycle ribbon shown here actually encompasses key functionality from 6 of our products. It works from left to right, following the flow of the document drafting lifecycle. First, you create your document, then you insert clauses, then you proofread it, then you fix errors. Then as you're collaborating, you compare versions, you then clean the hidden metadata, and finally convert to PDF for sending. So not only do you not need to leave Word in this workflow, you don't even need to leave the document. Here's another example. In Contract Companion, a single click proofreads your document, finding critical issues that would never be found with a naked eye. Our DocX Tools companion product that's fully integrated with it can then provide single click fixes to address the issues it finds. In Clause Companion, which is the newest product, we've built a clause bank that's designed by lawyers for lawyers. It's the first clause bank to be fully integrated into Word, where the lawyers spend most of their working day. It also allows lawyers to harvest their own content and share it with their team. What that does is it answers the what's in it for me question that lawyers always want to ask when presented with new technology. Many knowledge management solution implementations tend to fail or struggle to get adoption because they don't answer this question and they try and force the solution top down. But Clause Companion starts at the ground level and therefore gets user adoption while expanding it to contain firm content and ultimately third-party content, where we're the presentation layer for other solutions. Then our secure file transfer solution is another example of a way you can provide lawyers with powerful time-saving, risk-reducing functionality without changing the lawyer's workflow or even providing them with training. This is a fully integrated solution. It's integrated into the email workflow. And with just a couple of clicks, you can send files of any size securely and even clean the metadata at the same time. And that last point is often forgotten because it's not built into the workflow. So let's move on to the vendors, and in particular, how focusing on the right vendors can benefit your firm and your lawyers. In order to make a difference in this area, you're going to need your own trusted advisor, and vendor is the established term. A business partner seems a bit more appropriate these days, particularly as law firms tend to be reducing the size of their IT organizations and relying on vendors more. This is actually the term that the Ulta organization is now using, and it fits more with the type of organization that Latera Microsystems want to be. So what is a business partner? Well, they'll be responsive to your needs and they'll be experts on their subject matter. They understand your business and they'll also be an expert on that too. Do they have lawyers, former law firm IT leaders on staff? Do they know their stuff? They're going to be in touch with you all year long, and not just at the time of contract renewal and they want to be invested in your success. They'll regularly survey their customers, and they care about their Net Promoter Score so that they can ensure their customers are happy. They're also forward-thinking and offer you assistance in getting the most value out of your software. They're going to offer you training, educational sessions, and even CLE accredited content so that you can get your lawyers to attend training. They will provide usage statistics so you can demonstrate the return on investment and help you identify where the solution can be better utilized. But do choose your partners carefully, as they're not all the same. Finding the right one, though, can be critical to your success. So vendor consolidation is a hot topic right now, and it's a great strategy for success. One reason for doing this is that updating your whole desktop becomes so much easier the fewer vendors you have. If your desktop environment is a stack of Jenga blocks, with each one representing a solution from a different provider, then managing this and preventing it from falling over is a huge and pretty stressful task. Some firms have over 300 applications in their stack, and this is really stacked to prevent change, which is the very thing that law firms need to do to survive. And another consideration here is the new world of continuous updates from Microsoft. So vendor consolidation is important here too. If you reduce the number of vendors and only work with ones that are current and where their products are tested against each other, as well as against the latest Microsoft updates and the latest DMS updates, then you can keep your stack secure and up to date. Security is often, and rightly so, the most powerful driver for change. So you can use that to your advantage and drive change that also benefits your lawyers. So that ends the content portion of the webinar. Hopefully this has given you food for thought. And I know this is very high level, but we would love to talk to you or any of your colleagues in more detail. This is a topic that everyone at Latera Microsystems is really passionate about.
Awesome. Fantastic presentation, Simon. Really insightful takeaways and best practices, as usual. I particularly liked your bit about, for technologists, the importance of highlighting the what's in it for me for legal technology. We in marketing, we love our acronyms. We lovingly call that the WIFM, if you'd like to use that in your next presentation. But yeah, so let's shift to the Q&A. So a couple different questions have come in. So let's make sure we can get as many of them as answered as possible. First one comes from Jeff. He says, how do we increase lawyer adoption of these types of tools if users won't turn up for training?
So getting lawyers into training is definitely a common challenge. And creating a culture of change so that you can drip feed it to your lawyers can help with that. Big projects dump a lot of change at once, which can create a fear of change, and then they're reluctant to go because they know their desktop's going to change, and you'll get those holdouts. And it's all kind of too much drama in a way when you have a big project like that lands. So if you can introduce things and drip feed them, you can get better user adoption. You can focus on those single products where they're adding value. And when you do that, it resonates with them about why you're doing it. But also try and make things go viral. So identify the champions out there and get them to find use cases, things that are real world examples in your firm for them to share, and talk to the other lawyers about those, and talk to those in partner meetings, and really demonstrate the value that they're getting. And then finally, one trick to get people to attend is CLE points, or CPD in the UK, and that can get people to turn up and listen to the training. But some vendors, including Latera Microsystems, will provide usage statistics, and that can also get you the data you need to target certain areas of your business where you're not getting the traction, and find out where it is being used and use that to help you find the champions.
Awesome. All right, let's see another one here. This one comes from Gwen. She asks, are there any tips for engaging lawyers and getting them interested in this?
So having people on the ground is definitely important. What we're seeing a lot of now is where IT departments are being moved to external buildings or different locations, and they lose that touch with the lawyer. You still need to have people on the ground, and not just for big projects where you do floor walking and then disappear. You need to be doing that because you will have lots of people who won't turn up for training, and you will have opportunities to learn from people when you're around and available. Being on the same floor as lawyers, having people who are good listeners and want to talk to lawyers and hear their pain points, that's really good. And then they can identify solutions that fit those things. But also having kind of pop-ups like genius bars and things like that, where you're in a cafeteria area or somewhere that's a high traffic area that people will just walk up and ask you. And we've helped some organizations with their partner retreats, where they have an offsite and they have an area. The last firm we worked with called this an innovation avenue, where they had 2 or 3 select vendors with a booth there that they could just drop in and talk to. And some of those products were introduced in the presentations as well. And that generates discussion. And we've had a lot of success engaging lawyers in conversations when you're in those situations where they're talking about change and they're talking about innovation within the firm.
Excellent. Let's see, another question from Jonathan. So the question's around strategy. We all want to implement more efficient systems and processes, but sometimes it seems the strategy to remain inefficient to increase billable hours. How can we tackle this?
Yeah, the billable hour quite often is an impediment to change. People are entrenched in that and they don't want to be more efficient, but that's changing, right? There's a lot of commodity work that you need to be more efficient with, and the clients are asking these questions now about what you're doing to improve your efficiency. And I think when things come from clients, that's when you can get action. I mentioned before that security is a big driver, but anything that comes from a client is also going to be something that you can latch on to drive some change there and to drive efficiencies. If you have stories, some narrative, something that's happened in the firm, that can also really drive the change. And the risk management side of it as well, the quality side, lawyers should be very focused on what happens to the customer, what the client's experience is, and where you can improve the quality of the document, prevent it from blowing up at the last minute. They still have deadlines even when they're billing by the hour, and those are important.
Yeah, no, well said. So see, Johnson's got a second part of the question, but I'm just for the sake of time and making sure we get as many, I'm going to jump to one from Kim. She asks, how do you incentivize lawyers to be more efficient?
That's related to the other question. When we've talked to customers who've moved away from the billable hour, that's when they actually get it. That's where there's a tipping point for them. And it's definitely a challenge that we are regularly working with customers on. It's hard to do, and it has to be driven by firm management as well as bottom up. And using the repetitive tasks that they do every day as a way to improve their life and improve their satisfaction with the job, I think it is a good way to do that. The what's in it for me factor is important.
Awesome. All right, well, we're almost at the top of the hour, so we'll follow up with any extra questions afterwards. But if you enjoyed today's sessions, please join us for Simon's team's next webinar, which will be focused on industry insights, specifically related to document automation. That session is going to be led by the amazing Sherry Capel on Thursday, July 5th, same time and duration as today's webinar. If you're interested in joining, you can reach out directly to either Simon or myself. You can also type in your email into the questions window, and we'll make sure you get that invitation. Thanks again for sharing your insights with us, Simon, and thanks to all of you for joining us. Have a great rest of the week.